Okay, friends. So right now I'm with Sir, Mr. Savio Mascarenhas. He's a seasoned person. He's a seasoned comic artist. Throughout his 4-decade-long career, 3-decade-long career, he has been largely working with Amar Chitra Katha and Tinkle. And you must have, if you know the characters of Super Suppandi and Shambu Shikari, then this man needs no introduction. Sir, congratulations for coming on Comics Annual and being here at the Delhi Comic Con.
Yeah.
So, how has the last 2 days been?
Well, the last 2 days were hectic. Delhi has always been good for us. A lot of fans who come in, a lot of young readers who come in, a lot of readers who are now in their 40s and they come with their children. And it's like passing on the legacy of what they have grown up with. That is Amar Chitra Katha and Tinkle.
Yeah.
And they want their children to now read those comics. So I guess that is something which we really find very, very endearing and touching when these fans come over and buy our books. So yes, Delhi Comic Con has been good this year.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Sir, so I'll just quickly touch upon 3-4 things and please help me with some inputs. If you talk about your journey, the initial days, how did you come into this, the world of comic books and the art that is related to it?
Okay. So if I have to talk about my journey, actually it starts in the 80s when I started reading Tinkle as a child and Amar Chitra Katha. They used to come along with the newspaper vendors, that was Times of India at that time. And they used to come, so I used to have a Tinkle every month or an ACK every month. So my journey with illustration started then. Those visuals stay fresh in my mind. If you could talk to me about the epic covers of Amar Chitra Katha like Hanuman or so many of those covers which have stayed etched in my mind. And what happened after that was I started picking up drawing. I started sketching, I started doing doodles, I started looking at drawings and started doing my own little sketches. So I was inspired by Geoffrey Fowler from Amar Chitra Katha, Ram Vairkar, then of course it was V.B. Halbe. So I grew up reading Tinkle. I was a huge fan of Suppandi and Shambu. So, but I never knew that, I'm going to make a career in drawing.
Yeah.
I did my graduation and post-graduation in advertising.
Okay.
I worked as a copywriter very briefly.
Okay.
But I was always sketching and drawing on the side. And then I saw an ad in the newspaper which said that Tinkle wanted an artist.
Okay.
So it was just that much. So I walked into that office, I showed them my drawings and they liked it. So they asked me, can you freelance for us? Because I was working as a copywriter in an ad agency. So I started freelancing for Tinkle. I used to sell a See and Smile. These are little gags.
Okay.
And the first batch of gags which I showed Uncle Pai, he loved it. And he said, we'll pay you 50 rupees. And 50 rupees in 1990 was quite a bit.
Early 90s you're talking about.
This is early 90s.
Yeah.
And so my first batch of 10 cartoons, I got 500 rupees and was very happy, not knowing that, drawing can also give me money.
Yeah.
So that started my journey of freelancing with Tinkle for a couple of years. After that, I think it was the 31st of December and 94, and I met Uncle Pai. I wished him Happy New Year. And he asked me then, what are you doing? So I said, I'm working as a full-time copywriter and freelancing as a comic book artist. By then I was already drawing comics for Tinkle. So he asked me, are you happy writing or would you prefer drawing? At that moment I felt like something inside me told me like drawing is where I need to go with. And that started my journey. And Mr. Pai said, okay, I'll give you a New Year's gift. So my job is a gift to me from Uncle Pai. And since then, I guess I've always been with Tinkle. So my association has started from my childhood and it's still on. So it's 31 years of being
quite a long and eventful journey.
Very much. In fact, Shambu was a character I was very fortunate to have started drawing after Mr. Halbe retired in 97. I started drawing Shambu. And that was like the biggest moment for me in my life.
You carried the character forward.
So it's, carrying on a legacy of a character.
That's quite a responsibility.
Quite a responsibility. I was petrified to start with because, to match up with his talent for me was like, I was not ready for it at that time. But I started looking at his drawings and he encouraged me a lot. He's saying, don't worry about it. You just carry on. Do it the way you want to. Eventually, you will get it.
Okay.
So yes, I've done my best with the character. And I hope I'm never going to be matching with what Mr. Halbe did. But yeah, if you're looking at this Shambu, then it is just going to be like my version. But the original is the original.
No, but ask us. We are the ones who tell you. I mean, some lovely piece of work that we have seen over the past 2 decades.
Yeah.
Talking of Uncle Pai, the father of Indian comics, how was your experience like working with him? Any anecdotes in particular you want to share?
So I think the best thing about Uncle Pai was his faith in any budding creative person. It would be a writer or an illustrator. It was just, I knew he had that instinct to figure out what this person can do, and that is what he did with me. With no qualifications as such in any art school or anything that I.
Actually, you're not formally trained.
I'm not formally trained. I'm
Okay.
not from any art school as such. But Mr. Pai may have seen something, and that's the best quality about him. Like he could pick talents in people and nurture them. So I guess that is one thing which I've learned a lot from him. So even today, when I look at portfolios, I don't look at where these children come from. I just look at the work, because that speaks volumes about their talents. So
let nothing else decide for that kid.
Nothing else decide.
Only the work.
So, the work should decide. So even when children come in and they ask me what should I do, I said build a portfolio. Your qualifications is a secondary thing, but your portfolio is a very important thing. So I would look at a portfolio rather than the place where you come from.
Yeah.
And that's something I learned.
Your work should speak for yourself.
Your work should speak. And that was something which I learned from Uncle Pai. And of course, he was a knowledgeable person. You sat with him in his cabin. He used to talk about every subject under the sun. Be it mythology, history, culture, anything. And Mr. Pai was like an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Of course, he had a huge books. Like his cabin was completely covered with books. His table was covered with books. He was very particular about the titles that we worked on. For example, if there's any research material that we were referring to in our drawings, we had to show him those references.
Okay.
So that is what makes Amar Chitra Katha so relevant. The research is very important. He was like, very, very particular that whatever you're putting in the Amar Chitra Katha has to be perfect. It cannot go wrong, because there's a huge responsibility on our heads when we put out an Amar Chitra Katha.
Exactly.
So he was a stickler for that. Facts have to be facts, checked, cross-checked at least twice or thrice before we put it in a comic book. So that is something that we have learned from him, and the legacy that we carry forward today. That every Amar Chitra Katha that we work on is thoroughly researched by the writers. At least a month of research would go into making a title. For example, when we were doing Paramvir Chakra, so it was a month of research.
So what would be the prerequisite for the title? Were there any guidelines?
Yeah. So the titles are editorially decided. So the editor and the team decide that in this year we are going to make these titles, and then of course the research and everything and assignment of writers and all of that come in. So we have an in-house team of script writers, I would call them script writers or story writers, and of course the illustrators, designers, and we work with a lot of freelancers.
So will titles would be decided first, or storylines would come later, or vice versa?
No, the title will be, suppose if you're saying we want to do a book on Lakshmi, the goddess Lakshmi,
Okay.
then the research would start.
Okay.
So all the writers would then find out the stories that we have, find out the sources of all of these stories.
Right.
And there are so many stories out there. But again, we have to find the authentic source of it, right? So we have to vet all those stories through the editor first. Then the script writer will start the scripting of it. And at every stage, there's a checking with the editor. After the scripting, it will go back to the editor. The editor will check it and see everything is perfect. Then finally, it will go to the artist. Then the artist will start the sketches based on the script which the writers have written. And also, there's the stages for that. So once the artist does the pencils, as we call them, very light illustrations of the story. Those pencils will be shared with the editor and the team, and they will go through it. They'll see everything is correct as they have mentioned. Once that is done, then the artist will go into the step 2, that is the inking of it. Inking is then cleaning up the lines, like black and white artwork. That's what we call inking of it. So once the inking is done, again the editor and the team will see it and say, okay, fine, all of this is good. We go on to the next stage, that is coloring and lettering. So once the colors come in again and the letters are put in, letters means all the speech bubbles, like all the commentary that goes into the comic. All of that is put in, and again the editorial goes through it now for the colors and the text. So the text checking and everything happens, the edits of all, proofing of everything, all of that happens at this stage. Once all of that is done, then finally we send it for printing.
Lovely. So much of hard work.
Yes, it is completely a thing.
That's how these products, come about.
Yes. That's
So, sir, okay, moving forward, you must have changes a lot of, change that has come in the society ever since your starting early days. People these days have, kids specifically, they have stopped reading altogether. This book reading habit has diminished like anything.
Yeah.
So, any word of advice for them?
Well, this is a message for all the parents out there. Encourage reading for your children. I'm sure you all have grown up reading books. and you would want your children also to read. I know there are a lot of distractions for them out there. There are videos, there is so much on the mobile for them, but try to find time as a family to read, which is so important that children today pick up books and they inculcate the habit of reading. You know what, when you gift a book to a child, you are actually opening a window of imagination for that child, and a closed window for that child is not going to develop the skills of imagination, the skills of storytelling, the skills of learning. There are so many things that a book can do. So this is a message for all the parents out there and the young children also, that pick up a book and start reading. And of course, the simplest way of reading is pick up a comic book, because that's simple English. Then you can easily graduate to reading novels and complex, like tough books like non-fiction and whatever then you pick. But start with simple reading. It's not a very difficult thing to read. Start maybe with a couple of pages a day, and eventually you will develop a habit.
Okay.
So,
Last two, quick piece of questions.
Yeah.
This piece of advice was for kids. What would you advise to young artists who are about to make who are about to start their career? One is that they should focus on building their portfolios.
Yes.
What other 2-3 things you would want to tell them?
See, I guess the main thing for an artist or a writer would be be very, very observant. Know about your subject. If you're an artist, then know about the artists who are currently there. Today, you have easy access on Instagram, or you can go on to YouTube and find so many different artists and their work. So try to learn a lot from them. Earlier when we were learning, we had only books to refer, but nowadays everything is open for you. So learn as much as you can. Be very, very observant. And if you're an artist, sketch every day. If you're a writer, write every day. So these are something that you have to develop an habit for. Sketch as much as you can, wherever you can do it. At least maybe for an hour of sketching is not going to be tough, but do that as a habit. And I would always say keep a book, keep a sketchbook, so you will see the progress. What I've done in this month, and then as you see your progress, you will know that okay, you are learning, you are developing your style. It's very important for every artist and a writer to develop their own style of writing or drawing. So the more you practice, I guess eventually you will come to that level where you say, okay, this is my style of writing, or this is my style of drawing. So for all the students out there or wannabe artists and writers, hone your skills, develop a habit of writing or drawing. Do it on a day-to-day habit. And just an hour a day is something that you should give to your skills.
Okay, fine. Quickly, what keeps you going?
What keeps me going?
Yeah, even at this stage, you're talking with so much of enthusiasm, and
like I said, the journey of Tinkle has never stopped for me. I guess it is something to do with the way I've been growing up, the encouragement I got from my parents, who inculcated this habit of reading and the love for comics. I guess that is something which is very, very basic for me today. I cannot think beyond, of course, the comics that I do. Of course, I do think about, where these characters are going to go. So, for example, Suppandi and Shambu and Amar Chitra Katha and all the characters that we do will be going into animation. So, that is something that I want to see the future of Amar Chitra Katha and Tinkle. That is where I want to see that these characters grow and develop and reach mass audiences. So, that is something which keeps me going, the enthusiasm of seeing Amar Chitra Katha and Tinkle on various platforms. It will be audio, video, visual, and it could be anything. It could be comics, it could be movies, for example. So that actually keeps me really ticking and very excited about the future for Amar Chitra Katha in that sense.
Thank you, sir. One just last quick piece of advice. Quick word for the watchers of our channel, Comics Animal.
Yes. So I'm very fortunate to meet you here for the Comic-Con, and I really would appreciate channels like this who do their bit for comics and who spread the information about whatever comes out in our universe. And it's very important that we have people like you to do that. So thank you so much, and viewers out there, please follow, share and subscribe to this channel.
Thank you so much for the kind words, sir. Thank you so much for your time.